Hey carnivores, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Bella the Steak and Butter Gal. Hope you all are having an amazing meat fueled day so far, and let me know how you are doing on your carnivore journey. Feel free to drop any updates down below in the comment section. This is how I would start carnivore diet again if I could start over. For context, I have been on the carnivore diet for 5 years now, and I have successfully healed from autoimmune, skin, and eating disorders brought about by years and years of following a suboptimal human diet, and also by being addicted to carbs, sugar, and processed foods. Back in 2019, when I began my carnivore journey, the diet was considered even more unconventional than it is today. I made plenty of mistakes and had lots of trial and error, as many of the valuable tips and tricks that are accessible now just were not really there at that time. In today's video, I am going to share 5 of my very best tips and biggest lessons learned during the last 5 years of my carnivore journey that I feel will benefit most of you carnivores out there. The first thing I would do differently if I could start over is taking progress photos and using measuring devices to tangibly track progress. A lot of you know me as the gal who really isn't all for the scale and calorie tracking and obsessing over numbers, because not only is it usually a demotivating force, it's also not a very accurate reflection of the changes your body undergoes when on a carnivore lifestyle. Dr. Ken Berry is a good friend, and one of his best pieces of wisdom that really stuck with me was that your body will not allocate energy to metabolize stored fat until it is confident that other more important healing has occurred first. Oftentimes, carnivores will not see that scale budge for a minimum of 3 months, but it isn't abnormal for this process to extend beyond 6 months. I personally initially gained weight for a couple months on the carnivore diet before I started to see positive body recomposition changes. During this time, you're probably recomposing more than your scale gives you credit for. You could be gradually losing fat while lean tissue and bone density increase. So definitely take those progress photos or use a tailor's tape to take your waist, chest, arm, and leg measurements. Tracking your progress visually is a great strategy for all carnivores seeking recomposition results, and I recommend adhering to this process every 3 to 4 weeks, but never more often than that, to prevent the discouragement that frequently results from tracking progress too often and faster than your body can manage these changes. I really wish I had taken way more progress photos when I started to visually track my healing and weight loss, but I am so glad that I did take photos at all, and those photos I still use to this day to show just how healing carnivore can be. So again, I highly recommend you guys ditch the scale and instead replace it with progress photos. It might be scary or difficult to take that picture, but if you are determined and consistent, one day I promise you, you will be glad that you did. The second thing that I would do differently if I started over on the carnivore diet is to take meal prep much more seriously. I wish I did my homework and learned plenty of low effort meal recipes before actually starting a carnivore lifestyle that were easy to prepare and reliably delicious without the smell, grease, and dirty dishes that I had to clean up. Now, to give myself credit, I was coming out of a whole 6-year phase of being a vegan, so I really knew nothing about handling meat, cooking meat, how to cook meat, the best way to cook meat, and that's why, to help you all out so you will not waste the time and rack your brain the way I had to, I have developed an easy 4-step checklist for you to make sure that you are prepared for meal prep on the carnivore diet. First step is to choose simple recipes that require minimal ingredients and minimal cleanup. You can opt for a simple air fryer recipe, a 1-pot meal, or a sheet pan dinner that you can pop in the oven that I like to do pretty much every single day that minimize the number of dishes used and make cleanup a breeze. Additionally, consider using parchment paper to line all of your baking sheets, air fryer sheets for the most passive, idiot-proof cooking process and easiest cleanup possible. I've got a whole treasure chest of my favorite simple carnivore recipes and meal plans right here on my YouTube channel that I recommend checking out, because it'll really help you with the second step, which is actually planning your meals with a weekly calendar. Before starting your carnivore diet, spend some time planning your meals, both in terms of frequency and recipes for the week. This will help you stay on track and ensure that you have the game plan you need to stay focused. Take into account your schedule and plan meals accordingly, opting for simpler meals on busier days and maybe some more elaborate ones only if and when you have the time to spare. The transition to a carnivore diet and the adaptation symptoms are challenging enough. And the last thing you'll want on your mind is what to eat for tomorrow, how you're going to cook it all, and the cleanup you'll have to do as a result. Another benefit to having a meal plan is that it will help you streamline your grocery shopping because you will already know what to shop for, which leads me to my third step, stocking up on staples and batch cooking when possible. Keeping your kitchen stocked with staple carnivore foods like ground beef, chicken wings, eggs, and butter ensures you'll always have the things you need on hand and takes the legwork out of the grocery shopping. I also found that I went grocery shopping less by stocking up and bulk buying my carnivore essentials, especially when on sale more, which not only saved me time and energy, but also a lot of money on my monthly grocery bills. If you would like all of my favorite carnivore diet staples that I recommend for a cheap grocery bill every month, check out the videos that I've linked down below in the description box. On the note of batch cooking, this could involve preparing several servings of a recipe at once and then storing them in the refrigerator or freezer for later consumption. Batch cooking empowers you to have ready-made meals on hand for days when you are short on time or patience. The last and most helpful step of this process is to invest in time-saving kitchen tools, namely an Instant Pot or an air fryer. These appliances can help you cook large batches of food with minimal effort, and I seriously cannot say enough good things about them. I have used my trusty Cuisinart air fryer for the past 4 years now, and it is still the same air fryer that I got 4 years ago. It is very durable, very effective, and compact. My Instant Pot is excellent at making any broths, stews, and soups whenever I want something extra nourishing, hot, and comforting, for example, during the winter months here in Seattle. So both of these two gadgets for me are staples in my kitchen, and they've really helped me cut time and clean up throughout my carnivore years. If you do not want to invest in any extra gadgets, you can actually use something that is already in your house or apartment, and it is the oven. There are so many delicious meals that you can pop in the oven and make, and it is great for batch cooking because I usually put in 2 full sheets of fatty meat to cook in the oven every time I use the oven to cook. I'll put up some of my favorite carnivore meals that I make every single week in the oven. The third thing I would do if I started over on the carnivore diet is being strict, but not too strict. Now, let me explain what I mean. If you have gotten used to eating a lot of food with oxalates in them, like leafy greens, sweet potatoes, beans, nuts, or any whole wheat products like bread and pasta, these oxalate crystals can build up an incredible reservoir in your body over time. They may not bother you at first, but when you start eating healthier and your body begins to get rid of them, it can feel like a sudden rush of yucky and intense feelings. This is what we call oxalate dumping, and it is your body's way of saying, hey, let's get rid of these crystals so we can feel better in the long run. Now, the symptoms that occur when the body is getting rid of oxalates can be so painful, so harsh, and so unnecessary that I have to bring it up in this video. Common symptoms of oxalate dumping is crystals literally coming out of your skin, your eyes, your nose, and also out of your urine. If you have cloudy urine, that is a sure sign that you are dumping oxalates. Worsening of your autoimmune issues before it gets better is also common when people have a lot of oxalates to dump as well. So if I started the carnivore diet over, I would learn much more about oxalate dumping and oxalates in general, what to expect, as well as implementing an elimination schedule to manage my symptoms. Jumping onto the carnivore train literally overnight and coming from a 6-year strict vegan background where oxalate heavy foods were my bread and butter, my oxalate dumping was severe. Extreme fatigue and skin rashes were only some of the symptoms that I experienced during those initial few months on the carnivore diet. And it was really horrendous. Because I had 6 years worth of oxalates to dump, I do regret not gradually decreasing the intake of such oxalate heavy foods. So a great pro tip that I actually learned from the Steak and Butter Gang guest speakers, including Sally K. Norton herself, about managing and conquering oxalate dumping symptoms along with the intense cravings that usually come with them, is to set an elimination schedule. Instead of dropping all non-carnivore food groups at once, try eliminating vegetables on week 1, then fruits 2 weeks after, and stevia and sugar alternatives after that, and so on and so forth. The way you categorize foods to eliminate on your schedule is entirely up to you, but this type of method would allow your body time to adjust and process oxalates at a manageable pace, minimizing the likelihood of experiencing crazy symptoms. A cold turkey approach works for those who are just wired that way, but there is no shame if you need a smoother and more incremental strategy that will serve as a stronger foundation for future success, as well as making long-term commitment much more realistic. One other extremely helpful tip for those who are transitioning into full carnivore is to include 2 ingredients that really help smooth out oxalate dumping symptoms, and that is black tea and lemon juice. Both of these ingredients have just enough oxalates in them to really smooth and lessen the harsh oxalate dumping symptoms that one would normally go through, especially if you have a history of being vegan, vegetarian, or eating foods that are very high in oxalates. Another ingredient is dairy. Dairy products can also help new carnivores with oxalate dumping by binding with oxalates in the gut, which can help prevent their absorption into the bloodstream. The calcium in dairy forms insoluble complexes with oxalates, reducing their bioavailability and minimizing the risk of symptoms. As a little bonus tip for those starting carnivore, I wish I had known about raw dairy and where to find it. So I'm going to link a bunch of really great sources down below in the description box to help you find raw dairy near you. Not only would it have helped with my oxalate dumping and adaptation symptoms, but it also would have been a far less inflammatory option for me than pasteurized dairy, which really caused my eczema in particular to flare up during my early carnivore days. Another great alternative to pasteurized dairy is Armour's colostrum. This is what it looks like, and it has 400 bioactive, naturally occurring nutrients such as peptides, antibodies, and antioxidants. Both my fiance, Steak and Butter Guy, and my older sister have been really enjoying incorporating colostrum in their daily routine. It has helped them with their gut health and hair growth. I recommend having 3 to 4 spoonfuls of it per day. You just mix it with a cold or room temperature drink of your choice and enjoy. You can all receive 15% off your first order by going to tryarmra.com/SBGAL or enter my discount code SBGAL at checkout. I've also linked them down below in the description box. The fourth thing that I wish I did when I started the carnivore diet is determining my level of histamine intolerance, as well as even understanding that histamine intolerance was a possibility at all. I vividly remember the frustration of just not understanding why my autoimmune and adaptation symptoms worsened after consuming certain foods like eggs and shrimp. It wasn't until I stumbled upon information about histamine intolerance that things started to make sense. After a particularly uncomfortable flare-up following a meal heavy in egg whites, I realized there was a pattern. So this really prompted me to revisit my understanding of histamine intolerance and its effects on my body, ultimately leading to a more informed approach to my diet and a significant improvement in my skin health. This is crucial for managing symptoms like worsened eczema triggered by foods such as eggs, shrimp, and seafood in general. Recognizing which foods exacerbate histamine intolerance and which are better tolerated can significantly improve your quality of life and healing journey on carnivore. An easy at-home method for testing histamine intolerance involves observing reactions after consuming high histamine foods. What are some high histamine foods? Let me just list them off the top of my head. Egg whites, and I mean egg whites in particular, not the yolks, but the egg whites. Aged meats, and this includes any aged meats at all, including the steak and beef that you are buying at your butcher shop or local grocery stores. All beef and lamb are aged for a certain amount of time as the standard protocol before it is being sold in grocery stores and butcher shops. Processed meats that are packaged and aged are also extremely high in histamines. So things like pastrami, salami, prosciutto, deli meats, any cold cut meats are very high in histamines. If you eat any of the foods that I listed and you experience any of the following symptoms like runny nose, itchier skin, stuffed nose, or straight up flare-ups of your autoimmune issues, it is possible that you are going through histamine intolerance from the food that you just ate. If these symptoms occur, it is advisable to avoid these foods that are known to be high in histamines, aged meats, egg whites, seafood in general. Cutting them out for now will alleviate the discomfort and improve your overall well-being. I see a lot of carnivores who have a lot of autoimmune issues to heal tend to go through histamine intolerance initially. I know I did needed when I was trying to heal my eczema and psoriasis. Fresh meats, as opposed to anything that was aged, really helped me as I healed through my histamine intolerance. If you want to test out eating non-aged meats that are completely fresh, I highly recommend checking out Billy Doe Meats. All of their lamb and beef is completely unaged, so it is a perfect source for people who have a lot of histamine intolerance to heal. And I can assure you, if you're watching this and going through histamine intolerance, that this is not forever. It's not going to last for the rest of your life, and it does go away with enough time, patience, and eating the right foods to heal. So now we arrive at the fifth and final thing I wish I did when I started the carnivore diet. Actually, this is something that literally was not possible when I started the carnivore diet, so I made it my life's work to make it a possibility for you and those like you. And that is joining a community of like-minded carnivores who will cheer you on from the sidelines, celebrate your highs, and be there for you when you are low. To explain why this is so important, here is a short clip of Dr. Joan Ifland, a Stanford Business School graduate and expert on processed food addiction, during a past meeting within our Steak and Butter Gang community.
We are totally the sum total of our beliefs, and our beliefs come from the people around us. Am I hanging out with people who expect to be vibrant through their end of their lives? Or am I hanging out with people who expect to be in a lot of pain with a lot of medications and hospital visits? Pay attention to the people you're hanging around with. Mirror neurons. We started down this conversation. Mirror neurons will copy. They're just radar. They're automatic radar. What are they doing? Oh, they're sick and going to the hospital. Okay, we'll be sick and go to the hospital too. If you are around people who don't eat this stuff, who get outside a lot, if you're around people who are reading, who are writing, and are happy and are productive, people who are angry and depressed, their cells are not working that well. You want to be around people who are dancing, making music, singing, making art. They're engaged. Their frontal lobe is engaged. That is totally the way that you avoid the development of dementia and Alzheimer's.
Wow.
These things are incredibly, totally 100% avoidable.
As Dr. Ifland said so beautifully, you are a product of your environment. So if you're not surrounded by friends, mentors, and familiar faces that are conducive for success, you'll almost certainly fall off the wagon. And who knows if you'll ever be brave enough to take that step to start again. My community, the Steak and Butter Gang, was established in 2019 specifically to address this. I wanted to create an intimate, homey, and safe space that carnivores like you and me could trust and rely on. 5 years later, and all thanks to the amazing members, coaches, special guests, and doctors who call the Steak and Butter Gang a second home, I think we've achieved that goal. We just started our 30-day carnivore challenge, and we do our monthly challenges every single month within the Steak and Butter Gang community. You'll be able to learn and ask your questions from all the carnivore experts and doctors that visit, as well as get the support and accountability you need from the passionate members who are part of the tribe. For more details and to directly join us, you can visit the URL shown on the screen, sbgmeetup.com, or check out the clickable links down below in the description box. That wraps up how I would go carnivore if I could start over. And by following these tips, I am sure that you will have a much smoother experience than I did. Thank you so much for watching the video, and as always, let me know if this video was helpful for you. If you have any questions or you are currently struggling with anything, comment them down below and I'll be sure to help out and make better videos for you in the future. I hope to see you in my next video. SVG out. Thank you.